for our show. The voice that you are now hearing is that of yours truly, Captain Glenwood Alexander Bain. Most people refer to me as Captain Bain. Some get rather formal and call me Mr. Bain. And of course, my family and close friends know me simply as Glenn. This is show number 10, people. So please get comfortable as we engage discussions on the long overdue topic, fishing in the Bahamas. We're going to delve deep into how we fail to engage lucrative fishing activities such as longline fishing and stone crab trapping. We will advise of some protected fishery zones, protected fishery species, prohibited fishing gears and methods, enforcement for poachers, etc., etc., etc. So buckle up, folks, and join us on this controversial and informative adventure into the impact of fishing in the Bahamas. Our sponsors for tonight's show are One-on-One Pharmacy. Listen, people, you know how this goes. You want good treatment, you need medication, check out my little cousin Shantia Hill McBride and a lovely team of One-on-One Pharmacy. Fill the prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site oneononepharmacy.com, all one word, all lowercase. The two locations are East Street South and Charles Sanders Highway. When you walk in the door, you'll be treated with utmost royalty. Say hello to my good cousin Stephanie, and of course, let them know that Maritime Matters sent you. And we are also sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. Yes, that's us, BMC. We provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. We give you ISPS assessment for your facility, ISPS plan for your port facility as well. We do ISPS annual audits, verification audits for your facility. We do training at the 3 levels of maritime security. And of course, we provide maritime consultancy and so on and on. Anything to do with maritime security, BMC is your guy. To the listening audience out there in Radio Land, it would be remiss of me not to go any further without introducing my wonderful producer. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you my daughter Misty's classmate from the Jolly Green Giant St. John's College, the insatiable, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the one and only Kishno Jones. West Brother Jones. He's giving you a wave and a hail, people. Kishno Jones loves to be a part of us, and he keeps me in line. Thank you very much, Kishno. You're listening to Maritime Matters, people. On this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 19:30. I always say that's 7:30 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. The purpose of Maritime Matters is to highlight persons, that's right, people, that made significant contributions to maritime in the Bahamas, and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities, jobs in the maritime sector. Halfway through the show, we will open the phone lines. The number to call will be 326-8255. That's 326-8255. Meantime, allow me to revisit some of our existing local maritime matters. We've been talking for weeks now about the Genting Hong Kong group with the Crystal Symphony and Crystal Serenity still remaining under arrest by the Admiralty Marshal. That's our Freeport. We continue to await the release of the investigation report surrounding the sinking of tanker Tropic Breeze by the super yacht Utopia 4. That was a few weeks back. Thirdly, we await the outcome of the investigation surrounding the tragic sinking of a small vessel that took the lives of 39 persons while transiting from Bimini to Florida. So there we go, current maritime matters in a nutshell. At this point, I once again highlight our 4 maritime standouts. They're all dead now, and God continue to may God continue to bless their souls. But we could never forget them. These celebrities are, of course, HMBS Flamingo infamous skipper, Senior Commander Amos Wool. Secondly, we have Port Controller Extraordinaire, the greatest port controller of all time, Mr. Leon Flowers. And then we have our king of sloop sailing. How could we ever forget? The great Captain Raleigh Gray. And of course, our Olympic gold medalist in sailing, the Star Class sailboat, Sir David Knowles. We will continue to remember them as time moves on. Now, our show tonight, again, is all about fishing. What are some of the initiatives we need to introduce to our fishing industry to make it more economically viable for Bahamian commercial fishermen? Should we make fishing a part of our school curriculum, from the primary level all the way through high school? Should we allow non-Bahamians to participate in our fishing industry? Should we engage long-line fishing as part of our domestic commercial fishing spectrum? Should we engage stone crabbing as part of our commercial fishing spectrum? Should we protect more areas in the Bahamas for sport fishing and to protect our fishery products? We're talking maritime. Welcome to Maritime Matters. At this point, we move to our first break. And when we return, we will engage tonight's dynamic Maritime Matters guests. This is going to be awesome, awesome, folks. You're going to have a time tonight.
At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Go ahead, Mr. Wendell, and welcome back. We're talking maritime, people, and tonight we're talking the impact of fishing in the Bahamas then and now. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I am pleased to introduce tonight's guests, hailing all the way from the great constituency of Centerville. I bring to you an informed individual with a profound wealth of Bahamian fishery history. I present to you tonight a good friend, a former fishery officer, the dynamic Mr. Wendell Clarke. Welcome to Maritime Matters, Brother Wendell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bain. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. I want to thank you for inviting me onto your show, and I hope I can impound some knowledge on my Bahamian people tonight. Good night, Bahamas, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Good night, Bahamas, from Mr. Wendell. Please allow us to get an insight as to who you are, Wendell Clarke. Where did you grow up?
Actually, I was born in Mason's Edition. I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's a park in Mason's Edition.
Oh, yeah, Saxon's Park.
No, it's Father Marshall Cooper Park.
Well, okay, that's
named after my great-great-grandfather.
Oh, Father Marshall was your great-great-grandfather.
Exactly. He was the second black ordained minister of the Bahamas.
I always thought you had special genes.
Well, I got some more of that, but I can go into all of that.
Go right ahead,
But my mother and her siblings and my grandfather were born in Rocos Point, Exuma.
Okay, so your mother's Exomian.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
And then they moved to Nassau, and there was a two-story wooden house there, and I was born there as a young boy. And then before I grew up, my mother moved to Centerville on Montreal Avenue and Kennewood Street.
Okay.
Yes, and the homestead is still right there right now, right across the street from McCartney's Pharmacy.
Right.
My
So
sister.
you was born in that National Park.
Yeah, from Mashkuba Park.
That's where your mother lived when you born.
Exactly.
And then you eventually you all moved.
I spent my first
Kenilworth.
Christmas there in 1959 as a baby.
Okay.
And then we moved to the Valley. So,
Yeah.
I'm a Valley boy.
You're Saxon first, then Valley.
Well, of course, Walter Francis always reminds me of that. Every time she see me, remember now you were a Saxon, okay?
You born a Saxon.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, but
Interesting.
grew up in the Valley, and
Uh-huh.
always loved the Valley. You know,
Mhm.
never leave it, always visit it.
Okay.
You know, always go back there, keep in contact with the people.
So
You know.
who were your siblings and neighborhood friends? And
Well, my mom is what lady, Ruth Patricia Clarke Goodrich. Her maiden name was Thompson.
Right.
Many people know her. She was first served in World War II.
She served in
Yes,
your
as
mom
a
served
teenager.
in
Yes,
World War
yes, she was a nurse
Oh, wow.
in Jamaica. There were
Wow.
her and a group of ladies,
Mhm.
11 of them that went over there to, you know, the soldiers that were injured.
Yeah.
They would bring them to Jamaica to convalesce, and my mother went over there to help as a nurse. And
Because I remember before your mom passed on,
Uh-huh.
I met your mom a few times.
Yes,
And she wrote a book.
the Brave 11.
That's a book.
Right.
That explains all about when she
The
got to
11 women that went over there to serve
Wow.
as nurses. You know,
Okay.
Lady Solmina was one of them. She was a combat at the time.
Right.
And it's quite clear. As a matter of fact, the copies of the book are available at my sister's store on Margaret Avenue,
Right.
Fantasia,
Right.
which is right next to McCartney's Pharmacy. So
Okay.
you can pop in there anytime you want to purchase a book if you
Yeah.
want.
I got to get another one. I knew I bought one some time ago, but I need to get one for my
As a
library.
matter of fact, she also wrote a book on the history of Mason's Edition.
Wow.
So you can get
Your
the
mom was a real writer.
Right, it's called Mason's Edition.
Excellent.
And the other one is the Brave 11, when she was a member of the Auxiliary Territorial Services.
Correct.
All right.
How about your siblings? You have how many brothers?
I
and
am the
sisters?
fourth of 5 kids.
Okay.
My oldest sister is Barbara Chung.
Okay.
She is now retired after 50 years in the airline industry.
Okay.
My second sister is Jan Major. She owns for Fantasia operating on Margaret Avenue for
Right.
30 years.
That's my good buddy John. I love
Right.
John. Yeah.
Then it's my brother Hugh, who unfortunately had a stroke a few years ago, and he's now convalescing in a home
Wow.
trying to cover. And then it's me. And then last but not least, my young sister Robin Rowe.
Oh, you older than Robin?
Yes, I'm older than
Oh,
Robin.
Robin is the most sprightly though. That's my buddy.
Right, of course, she manages the flower
She's
shop.
always in the flower store. That's my
Yes,
good
yes,
buddy.
and she lives at the homestead along with her husband Lawrence Ricardo, who was a former
Yes,
police
Ricky,
officer.
Ricky, yeah.
And
Ricky and I
your
saw her
daughter-
together a couple of times.
And their daughter Rashay Road, who is now a nurse.
Okay.
She's at the adolescent
Beautiful.
take care of the hospital services.
A wonderful setup for
Great
family,
job.
my
Yes,
brother.
doing great job.
That's so glad to hear that.
Yes.
So why did you choose to engage in fishing regulations? Fishing, period.
Well, let me backtrack a little bit. When I was a little boy,
Uh-huh.
one of my favorite shows was The Unseen World of Jacques Cousteau.
Oh, I watched that.
Yes,
I was born to do it.
Oh, I know, I love the show. But I was fascinated about the guys scuba diving.
Right, yeah,
And
that was the
I
behind the
would
scenes
probably
stuff.
like to want to do something like one
Wow.
time. So when I finished high school, I was working at the bank, and my mother being an educator,
Well, hold on now. Which high school was that?
St. John's College,
The Jolly Green Giants.
Green Giants.
What year did you finish
I
that?
graduated in 1976,
From 76.
and then I stayed an extra year in the sixth form to do my A levels.
Okay, so you was a smart boy.
Um,
A levels?
Yes,
Well,
yes.
I didn't dream of that.
Right. So
The only thing I got was my BTE. I mean, I've been to England for some training.
there you go.
But you went to university or
Yes,
after St.
yes,
John's?
yes,
Which
yes.
university?
It's called school called Southampton College.
Southampton?
Yes.
In England?
No, in New York.
Really?
Long Island, New York.
Because I know the Southampton Institute
Right, yeah,
in
yes,
England.
yes. And this is on the Hamptons. The Hamptons, is a very high class industrial
Right,
place.
Hamptons area,
It's
right,
about
right.
100 miles from New York City.
Okay.
But I got there because when my mother was encouraging me to go off to school,
Mhm.
and I said, okay, I tell you a story. I was sitting on the wall one day,
Yeah.
and some of these people came along and they gave me a manifesto that was produced by the then Free National Movement. And in the book, they had this section on how they got into power, how they were advanced in agriculture and fisheries. And it was lovely and very informative.
This must have been in the 90s.
No, this was in the 70s. in
The
the
free national
70s.
movement had a manifesto in the 70s.
It was the first of its kind.
Wow.
But, you know, back in the day,
Mhm.
you know, diversifying the economy, getting away from tourism and banking was the talk of all the
Right,
politicians.
right.
But, you know, you go to a rally, you heard a speech, by the time you can read and forget what the politicians say.
Yes.
And of course, you know, somebody can make you a promise in words,
Yeah.
and when you try to hold them, I don't remember saying that, but then you put it in writing.
Right,
Writing
that's
words,
different. So you
like,
got
the
this
Ten,
manifesto.
like the Ten Commandments, it's written in stone.
You could read it, yeah.
So I saw the manifesto, I read it, and I looked at it, and it was all beautiful pictures, and everybody was talking about it, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And then the Progressive Liberal Party they came up with their manifesto. And
I think
got a
our
copy of
plan
that.
was the name of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I looked and I said, okay, both of these parties are promising to develop the fishery.
Right.
So I say, either party gets in, if I get involved in this, I win.
Right.
All right, so then I went, when my mother encouraged me to go, I went to the Ministry of Education, and they had a big book there
Right.
with all the different degrees you can,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
right, and they had the best schools to go.
Wow.
So I looked up marine biology, and the University of Miami was up there. That was the first one.
Okay.
Now, at the time, I had a lot of family that had moved to one of my aunts and uncles had moved to New York
Right.
and raised their families over there.
Okay.
And of course, back then, New York was the city. It's still probably one of the hottest cities to go to.
Still is.
All the movies, Carlton Comes to Harlem, all those were based around New York.
That's right.
And my cousin would come over and from New York with a little slang and all the little flashy gear. So I said, if I'm going to go to college, I want to go someplace where I could have me some fun.
You got a family nearby.
Right,
That's the fun.
so it was LIU, which is Long Island University. So I
Okay.
applied to them,
Mhm.
and I got an acceptance letter from Southampton College.
Okay.
So I later learned that Long Island University is based on 4 campuses,
Mhm.
LIU, CW Post, the Brooklyn Center, and Southampton College. Southampton College is primarily for marine biologists. It's out there an area called Shinnecock Bay.
Mhm.
They had a marine science area and everything there, so I went down there. And it was kind of like a mind blower first.
Yeah.
You know, every class I took, as a matter of fact, I was the only black person
Oh, really?
majoring in the marine biology.
Wow.
You know, so when when we go to classes and one of the professors would say, okay, pair up in your lab, I was most of the time left by myself because I didn't know anybody.
Right.
And I wasn't that good in chemistry when I was in high school or physics. I didn't go for physics, which were some of the things you need to get your degree, but I was
Right.
good in biology. In my GC, I
Yeah.
got to be in that.
Okay. Very
And
good.
the system was totally different. First, I was assigned a faculty advisor.
Mhm.
There were tutors and everything available. So they advised me how to pursue my degree. And of course, you need to get a certain amount of credits for your degree, and then you also have to get a certain amount of credits what they call electives.
Okay.
So you have to do things like philosophy, art, I did some art, I did some
To make
theater,
credits,
so
yeah.
you make your degree more rounded,
Right.
you see?
Okay.
So I started my first semester, I was able to,
So how you got a sponsor, or you
Right.
you had to pay?
I
pay
got
for
a
yourself?
government loan from government,
Oh, really?
and during my
That
time.
was only for this particular type course, or was there any?
No, it was just a $6,000 loan that I was able to get from them.
Okay.
And then my mother, at the time I just retired, she had gotten a gratuity,
Mhm.
so she used some of that. And then at the time when I was working at the bank, I had saved some money, so I had some of that too. And then after my first semester, my first year, my freshman year, and I got my grade point, I was like, I think it was 3.5.
Mhm.
So I was able to apply for the academic
Right.
academic award from the college.
Okay.
So going into my second year,
Mhm.
I stayed for the summer. I didn't come home.
Oh,
I
you
stayed
just-
for the summer.
Okay. Wow.
Because I was able to take my first chemistry class, chemistry 1.
And all this time you was living with your family.
No, I was living on campus.
Oh, you could live on
but
campus.
my aunt Monica, who
Mhm.
met me at the airport,
Right.
she was also a nurse too, and she lived in Queens.
Okay.
And the school was 100 miles. I had to catch the train. The
Oh, to get to
express,
school.
all the way here.
So you might.
Which I kind of really like, because some of that was really laid back. It's
Yeah.
just like a little small town.
So you had a lot of study time, and you had a lot of
Yes,
assistance.
yeah,
because
and
you
there were
had
no
advisors and all
distractions,
the rest
no
of that.
distractions.
Right.
The campus was actually a train stop.
Okay.
And the campus was like the main state of the town.
In that area.
Yeah, very little small town. And so I was able to get through and with assistance and
So what year you graduated from
in
university?
1982
With your degree?
with my degree in marine
In
biology.
82, you came and you went straight into fisheries?
Right, yeah, I came back, went to the Department of Public Personnel, put in for an application, and with the assistance, I got a job at the Department of Fisheries,
Mhm.
and I started there.
Okay.
And I think it was like around September of 1982.
And did you expect to do anything on boats when you go into
Oh,
fisheries?
no, I had no idea what I would be doing.
So when did you start to get engaged with boats in the fishery department as a fishery officer?
Well, when I first got there, my very first assignment, there was a gentleman, very distinguished gentleman, we should all know him, Mr. Simpson Penn,
Oh, yeah.
founder of the Boys Brigade.
Simpson Penn, yeah.
He was a fisheries inspector,
Oh, wow.
and he was getting ready for retirement.
Right.
So one of his duties was every morning to go over on Potterski Dock
Mhm.
and collect fishery statistics of all the fishing boats that
Right.
come in. So I went out with him and to take over from him,
Right.
and he introduced me to all the fishermen and everything, you know, who I was, and I'd be taking over from there.
That's how you started.
And that's how I started. So we would go there with our notepad, and he'd be the fisherman. We would ask questions like, you know, the name of the boat, the captain, where the boat originated from, whether it was from Arago, Spanish, what have you, the size of the vessel, how many crew, how many dinghies, how many days you spent out to sea.
So you would record all this on a
I
daily
was right on
basis?
a pad,
On a daily basis?
on it every day, every
Wow.
morning, every
What
morning,
was the purpose of that?
to collect statistics so you could see
How fishing goes
how they're progressing, right,
Okay,
you
right.
see? And then you go with, then after you get all that statistics, you would start with group of fish, all that, how much whole group, how much poundage, then they would tell you how much pound they estimate they catch. And the big thing about it is most of the estimations were very low.
So did you see progression while you were there, or decline in fishery products and fishery equipment?
It depends sometimes. Sometimes
It's up and down.
Up and down, depends. And then you have, you know, like the guys from Spanish had these bigger vessels where they could do many things. The guy from Arago, you have guys who just specialize in getting count. Okay, so you would ask them how much pounds of grouper, whole grouper, how much pounds of skin grouper, how much pounds of fillet, how much pounds of conch, how much pounds of crawfish.
Did you do enforcement to check the size of these products?
Most definitely, most
At the
definitely.
same time, yeah?
Because as a matter of fact, anybody who worked in the Department of Fisheries basically was involved in enforcement.
Well, is to lock up anybody?
Well, I try not to.
You try not to lock up people and break the rules.
Actually, my entire 10 years, I never locked up one single person.
So you didn't really do your job, Brother Wendell.
No. Well,
Mr. Wendell.
I didn't want to alienate myself.
Well, suppose he was on the police force and you had that attitude.
Different story. I tried to educate them first. You know, I really tried to educate them.
So were they listening? I mean, you think you were making progress?
Yeah, definitely. I had one incident with one guy. He got a little boisterous, and I had to, you know.
You had to put him in the place.
Yeah. And he came back and apologized. But
Well,
I didn't prosecute him, you know, because it's people's livelihoods, and a lot of guys didn't really know. Some of them always claim ignorance. You see, and then when you got all that data, you go back to the office. They had a form you would fill it out, and then based on the market price, let's say guys I bring in 10,000 pounds of whole grouper, and grouper's going for $7 a pound at that time. You multiply them figures, then you get a figure, and that shows you how much that was value, and then you add all of that up, and you realize how much money they made for that one trip.
So back then, do you think that there was a lot of fishing violations being carried out by commercial fishermen?
Not too
You
much,
didn't
really.
think so?
Not, yeah.
Because they were making money. They could do it right and make money.
Not too much, you know, because I mean, actually back then too, a lot of guys depended on selling to the fish houses, and Island Seafood was one of the major.
Island Seafood was one of
And
the
if you
major
had like illegal size profit, they're not going to buy it.
Right.
They would not buy it. As a matter of fact, you bought it to them, they would call us. You know, so like, if you come in like with one illegal sized crawfish,
Yeah, that's no big deal.
yeah, but if you come in now with several bags,
Trying to sell them.
right, that's
Yeah.
a different story. You
Okay.
get confiscated, you know.
So what would have been like, your biggest encounter as far as challenge back then when you was a fishery officer? Do you have any one moment that you remember that was a big challenge?
I think one of the biggest problems I had was trying to educate the fishermen on the conservation. You know, back in the time there was a large amount of bleach using to catch crawfish. The guys would get the bleach.
But the commercial people was doing that?
No. But,
Okay.
Well, really, you couldn't really see that you're out there on the water.
Yeah, but I mean, they wouldn't need to do what if they didn't.
What they do is they spray the bleach by the coral there.
Yeah.
Because you know a lot of crawfish hide deep in the
Yeah.
and that would irritate them and push them
Plus,
out
if they
there,
come out-
and then they could spare them.
They get them free.
Right, like that. And
But they kill the coral when they do
it
that.
was a
You
concern.
think that's still going on?
I hope not.
Yeah, but you think it stopped?
Yeah, I think they
During that
realize now,
time?
if you continue doing, you're killing the goose.
Yeah,
you hurt
shooting yourself in the foot.
Right, so educating the fishermen
Okay.
on the importance of conservation and protecting the reefs was one of our biggest challenges right there.
So what would have been your biggest obstacle, you say, while you was a fishery officer? What you think stopped you from doing the job properly? What stopped the fishing industry from progressing? Anything you could pinpoint back then?
Back then, I was fresh out of college, full of ideas, and I was determined I wasn't letting nobody stop me from getting my point. Because one of the things I did when I ran back and spoke with my director, and they said, a lot of these guys claim ignorance. So my director had made a trip to Barbados, and he came back from a conference, and he brought back a pamphlet from Barbados where he had the fisheries regulations on it. And he gave it to me and said, Mr. Clarke, I think you can do something like this for here in the Bahamas. And I said, sure. So not only did I do one, I went and did one for turtle, one for crawfish, one for conch, and one for grouper, specifically 4 of them. 4 big people.
Billboards.
Right. And I went
what was saying? It was saying
the season, the use of bleaching, the conch, the frag, making sure that frag is all the regular things to eat, because those were the major
major products.
Right. So, and then
was this the first time? Did they ever have a billboard saying things before this first time?
No. Normally it's just like this small pamphlet. So, and then of course by word of mouth, everybody knows certain things you shouldn't do.
But it's good to have it on.
Right, because everybody claim ignorance. So what I did before, after I made the posters, I went to government printing. I had about 1,000 copies of each one made up, and then I went to my director and asked for some funds, and me and a few other colleagues got some billboards made up, and all the areas of Fortescue Dock, we put a billboard right there with the posters right there, so you can see. We took one by the Montague boat ramp. We went out Adelaide, put one in there, one out by Gambia, put one on there, so you have no excuse, because the regulars was right there staring you in the face. So I come up by Montague Brown, I see one Hamlet right there, or I see undersized crawfish right there, you have no excuse.
You can find out the sign and say,
you see the
better,
sign,
you know better.
Just like when you drive on the street, you see the stop sign, you have no excuse.
You're supposed to stop.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, let me ask you, Mr. Vanderbeek, there was a revolutionization in the mailboat industry as far as the type of mailboats. Back in the day, they had the smaller version, and they all use cranes. They all put things down in the hold of the ship, and then they put things on top. But in this day and time, if you want to be competitive, you need to have a mailboat with a ramp that can drive containers and vehicles on and off. And they actually have places on the Family Islands now where they could actually lower their ramp and keep that going. A mailboat today could go to a Family Island, spend less than 2 hours, drive off about 3 or 4 containers, take on the empty containers, and they're gone. But back in the day, that would take to offload that vessel by crane, and then opening up the hole and taking all the that could take 8 to 10 hours or even 2 days. Right? So in the fishing industry, were there any such revolutionizing of vessels?
Well, of course. But even before I was born, back then the guys used sailing sloops.
Right.
And
I mean, from your time.
Before my time.
Yeah, that's right.
And also
they had live wells.
Right.
In the sailing
sloops, right? So everything was by sail, and then as far as conch was concerned, guys would use dinghies with the water glass.
Right.
And the long 15-foot pole. But guys didn't even go in the water to get conch. And of course, conch was in such abundance.
Right.
They didn't have to, so they would go there with the looking glass, look down, see the conch, take the thing and hook it up. But
they would spear fish that way too. They had the long thing with the spear on the end. And once they see fish, I forget what they call it. My granddaddy's good at that. He had a left hand when he's slinging them with the miss.
Yeah, like when I went, when I was a little boy, I went to a camping trip in Wales with Bishop Hepburn back in the day. And there were times when the tide would drop so low that fish would get caught in those puddles or pools of water. You could just basically go right there walking and just pick up a fish, like they back in those days,
Okay.
Yes.
It's a challenging feeling, Mr. Wendell. On a choppy day with heavy winds, to be engaged in commercial fishing, people trapping, pulling fish pots, diving, hauling fish. Is the compensation derived fitting for this type of activity?
Well, let me put it this way. If you're catching fish, you ain't concerned about no weather. I've been on vessels there. It was poor. I remember my first trip one of my trips on the Guanahani, and we were working, and all of a sudden the rain started to come down.
Right.
So I was like, okay, when the rain come down, we can stop. And I just noticed as some of the deckhands just went down, came back in with their, they call it their foul weather gear.
Yeah.
The captain grabbed a box and threw one to me. I dawned that on me, continue fishing, you know.
Yeah.
One of the trials when you're working in foul weather is the amount of gasoline you have to use on maintaining the boat course and what have you. Now there's sometimes some conditions where you come in and just get too rough that you really can't work.
The small boat down.
Yes,
the big
right,
boat down.
right,
It's
right.
too much.
I have a-
too much movement to pull truck.
I have a colleague of mine who went over to sea the other day, and when he came back, he said, man, how was Tracy, man? When we spent 5 days just bottling weather, we ain't catch nothing.
Even snappers. Recently they've been saying, oh, the weather bad, you know, snapper and brown.
yes.
But how would that
But
affect?
see, but now to catch a snapper, a lot of guys use nets. So if you have that rough weather, that's
They're
gonna,
hurling.
yeah, that's going to move that net all around. It's going to be very bad.
Oh, it's difficult.
And then also you have to use, like, the ships use the smaller article dinghy.
Right.
And that's
The
one
position in
dinghy,
that.
yeah, on heavy seas that can get capsized very, very easily.
Wow.
You see, so sometimes, depending on where you are, if you're close to land, you can you just run into land and wait for the weather to subside.
And then sometimes the divers say the water too muddy.
Yes,
You
yes.
see the waterfish.
Right. That's because of the upwelling, because of all the
The undertow.
right. It stirs at the bottom of the water.
Oh,
You
it
can't
makes
see
it all not so
Right.
clear.
Yes.
Wow,
See?
that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yes.
In the late 80s, the trend of installing condos came around. I remember that very well.
Yes.
There were controversies as to whether a diver had rights to engage in another's condo, since the condo became a part of the seabed. There were even reports of gunfights over condo tampering.
Yes.
What was the conclusion on all of this?
I have no idea, to be honest.
You think it's still going on?
I would agree. I mean, if I put down a condo, right, that's just me sitting on a fish pond. You don't go and put my fish pond and take my fish out of it, that's going to cause a problem. Right? So if I go and take my time and build a nice condo to attract crawfish.
How big were these condos? They call them condo because of the size.
First of all, some guys just use like the hood of old cars.
And that's a condo?
Yeah, they would just put that down there, and the crawfish would go up underneath there. Old fishing wrecks can serve as a home for crawfish. They had somebody make like a honeycomb type box thing that you could put down there.
But there are some very sophisticated ones too, that were
Yes.
pretty large.
Yes.
And I think that those were the ones that were, because I understand that people were saying back then, you know, I was a patrol, I was in charge of Defense Force Boat patrolling back then, and it was said that a condo is basically an artificial reef.
Right.
And it fits in with the bottom of the sea. So how could somebody go there and say, that's their own that?
Yeah, but if I didn't put it there, it wouldn't be there.
I agree.
You see, and then that would work.
So I guess the controversy on that never really concluded.
Well, the sad part about it is once you put that condo gate, you have to have a buoy attached to it and floating on the water. So that's how it's easy to identify.
Well, I think they got a bit further than that. What they started to do is they started to use GPS.
Exactly.
But see, sometimes a free diver goes and he sees the condo.
Right.
So if he's diving free, he didn't know it was there and he find it.
Right.
Are we saying that he shouldn't dive it?
It's a judgment call.
It's a judgment call.
It's a judgment
But
call.
like you say, he didn't put it there. He knows somebody put it there.
It's a judgment call.
That condo was a weird mess back
In
those
some
days.
areas, you have some areas where fishermen, say like in Raglan Island, for example, where their fishing ground is so close, guys can be on land and
Yeah.
they literally see you out there. So guys,
So they know you're diving there.
right? So they just see a boat and they know they have some fish spots, so they got
That's a problem.
They got to come out of it,
problem,
and then it could be a problem right there too.
Okay. And how impacting has the fishery enforcement mandates been over the years as it relates to Bahamian commercial fishing? Example, protected areas, like you got the whole land and sea park and exumas, you got closed seasons, you got prohibited gear, you got protected species. Has that really protected fishing over the years, you think?
Most definitely, most definitely. I mean, let me draw this analogy. We all go to work in the morning, rather than 9 to 5. Then when we come home, we need to lay down and get some rest and rejuvenate for the next day. It's the same thing with the species, you know. They need time to reproduce.
Recuperate and reset.
Right, that's why when I first they always had a closed season on the crawfish.
Right.
They didn't have one on Kong, they didn't have one on Cooper.
Right.
I remember going on Portsea Dock, and when the group was at school and everybody good, and you see people have the fish roll, all of this selling. I used to walk fishing and say, you realize that's the eggs, right? That is the future fisheries. So if you harvest all of that, you're going to cut down the marine stock. You know, a female crawfish can lay anywhere from 230,000 to 2.6 million eggs. But out of that 2.6 million eggs, only a very small percentage make it to adulthood. Because remember now, when that female lays those eggs, you have little small fish waiting on that smorgasbord board.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? So this is the food chain now.
Because I know they used to say back in the day that when grouper season is coming around and you would dive and you go then and you see the grouper marching in. I mean, they're just coming in schools and droves and
Right.
by the thousands.
Right.
So they say you could never really catch enough grouper in the Bahamas.
Exactly. And then and not also to mention too, they have their natural predators. Because the sharks are following you. So
Yeah.
the sharks are going in devouring. And here comes man doing his devouring. So you have to let me draw this
Have to have
analogy.
a resting period.
Right, this analogy. Back in the America, for example, when they had the buffalo, the bison buffalo,
Yes.
if you ever saw the movie Dances with Pearls, I
Mhm.
made an illustration to that. And the Indians would go there with their bows and arrows
Yes.
and hunt the buffalo, and it didn't tell how many they could catch. Then along came the Europeans with their guns.
Yeah.
So they could go there now and slaughter hundreds and hundreds of buffalo. They was only hunting for the hide. And the buffalo herds diminished from 25 million now to just a few thousand.
So the same thing that happened with us.
Right,
But
exactly.
it happened already in some areas of the world.
Yes, I know about some countries that had to just shut down fishing, the fisheries, because the Gulf of Mexico, for example. Was
So we got a call on the line.
Okay.
We need to announce now that the lines are open. The lines are open to callers. Mr. Wendell is here to answer your questions and queries. And let's see what's on line one. Line one, welcome to Maritime Matters. Good night.
Good night, Captain Brain, and good night, Mr. Wendell, your esteemed guest.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm Captain Brain, my friend.
Yes, I want to chime in on the whole issue of condos in the Bahamas. And I think that the current position is very, very flawed in terms of the fact that I think you had it right, Glenn, when you indicated that in times past, a condo became an integral part of the seabed, which it is. And just imagine with me just for a minute, right? There are several well-established fishing grounds. You got the area between, say, Key Lobos and Grinches. You have South Head. You have the Keyside Bank. You have the Grinches. I mean, you have the area in the berries there, gingerbread ground and all those stuff. Well, suppose I have plenty of money, right? And I build 10,000 or plus condos every year. And every year I put down 10,000 condos. And I cover the entire Keyside Banks, for example, right? Does that mean that nobody else can fish on the Keyside Bank because my condos are there? And so I think currently this whole business of condos has to be revisited by the government, because that's a problem. That when you think about future generation of fishers in this country and people who are going to gravitate towards the industry, where are they going to fish? Because if you check Portuguese Dock, every crop prior to the cropping season, you have thousands and thousands of these things being built and shipping out to sea. You go in Coral Harbor, thousands and thousands. Eventually, the seabed isn't unlimited. So we have to really look at that, because I don't think it's sensible to say that you could put down a condo. You from, say, Spanish River, you got plenty money to spend on building the condos. Then nobody else could use none of this area, no time, because every year you expand the amount of territory you take over in terms of condo placement.
Yeah, condos are really only divers, I think, because we got fish traps maybe that are all over the place. I would tend to think that we have more fish traps out there and crawfish traps out there and fish pots out there than condos, eh?
No, man. Those condos in the tens of thousands, and I can't.
So the condos have taken over more or less as far as the amount of things that are installed out there.
Those are plentiful, and the good part with fish pots, right? They sit on the seabed. You have a buoy. You have your FCC number, and at the end of the season you take them out of the water. You don't own that whole area. You don't have no seabed lease. Condos essentially is like a seabed lease. You own in parts of the seabed that's really and truly you have not. It should be for everybody.
So would it be fair to say that if somebody with a condo wants to lease the seabed, which is very expensive, then they can say that it's not fair game for anybody to use?
Well, I don't support leasing the seabed with respect to this national industry that really and truly supposed to support the entire Bahamas and Bahamians, whoever wish to get into the fishing occupation. But I think that we have to sit down and we have to discuss it, and it has to be a sensible solution. Yes, the folks who build the condos, they spend money to do these things, and yes, like Wendell said, sometimes they just use old car hoods and whatnot, and I don't even know whether or not, eventually, if they're left over, like when the season closes, reef material and plants grow over them, and they really and truly become an integral part of the seabed. But they have all those GPS plotted, and everybody still says it's my condo. You can't fish nowhere in this area. It's a problem.
Well, Captain Norbert Brain, I thank you so much for that contribution, and I expect that as we go along, you will give us another input since you won't be in here in studio with me. So
that's not the case, but in due course, I'll be there with you shortly.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, I can just comment on that. I think that's a good point that he makes, and I think maybe what should be done, people who build these condos should need to realize, hey, well, it's good that you're doing this, but once you put this there, understand that anybody who is engaged in the fish
should be able to
utilize that. Now, what would be a good thing to solve that problem is for everybody to get together and put a little piece of money inside, so everybody has a little right to the condo. For a prime example, if I can draw another example, by the Marathon, there's a road that turns over, and that was property belonged to the Marathon, but they opened up the road for now people are using like a public road.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So
everybody have used
it. So first that road was for the Marathon, for people to get access to the Marathon, but people used it to go there. Now if they go and block the road off, then they blocking off their own customers.
That's right.
You see? So like I said, people have to understand that when you put that, and of course you can't police it. You can't be on the condo on that. When I was at fisheries, a lot of guys would come in and complain about people pulling their traps and taking their crawfish out of their traps. So you can't be on site all the time. So when you put that condo down, you must put it down with the understanding that other people may go there and fish on your.
And the thing is, those guys put down those condos, and like I say, they don't put no buoys on those condos because they mark that territory by way of GPS.
Right, exactly.
So if you don't know what that is, you don't know what it is.
Exactly.
But now if a diver come across it, you can't blame the diver because he's diving the sea bottom. So if your condo getting away, you can't blame him for because the crawfish he could get might be in your condo.
Let me just put another little thing in there. I was watching this show the other day in the Mediterranean. They have come up with technology now where they go into the open ocean and harvest polyps of the coral reef.
Right.
And they take it into a laboratory, and they are now having tremendous success with growing coral reefs. So they grow into a nice good size. When they get the nice big size, they transfer them back into the ocean.
Yeah, I think Bahamians are now doing, they had a program here that I think won an award, where they actually creating and causing the coral reef to grow exponentially.
Exactly.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. So, and like I say, as fishermen, we must realize that it's there for all of us, so we have to share it.
We have to share it.
We have to share it.
The seas are there for commercial fishermen.
Exactly. We have to share it.
I don't know if they can't, well, you probably don't know because you've been out of the loop for a while, but can they actually get a permit to put a condo, or are they free to put them where they want them?
Well, I remember I think it first started with a lot of the albacore fishermen back in the day.
And Spanish Wells fishermen.
Yeah, right. And it's beneficial to all.
I'm just wondering if they need to get a permit from Department of Fisheries. Like, how they need to get a permit for everything.
I'm not quite too sure on that, because I know back then you didn't need it. you know.
Right.
Like I said, that's
Yeah,
something-
but when it first started with something to do
yeah,
with
I remember
I remember that.
I remember seeing boats and all these old cargoes piled up on the
Right.
boat, and they would put those out there and
Yeah.
everything, and then they started going into more elaborate construction of them.
But actually, you got the defense force, for example. We would sink ships to make
Exactly,
artificial reefs.
yes,
Because it
yes.
creates a habitat for fish.
Exactly, you know, and also
Just
makes
make
a
sure there's
beautiful-
enough fuel in it, and we strip everything out of it and dives out.
Right, a beautiful dive site
Exactly.
for tourism. you
So
know.
that's what we do.
Okay.
So back in the day, Mr. Wendell, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and the Fisheries Department enjoyed a great relationship. I mean, in the 80s and 90s, we did things to strengthen the BDF responsibilities in fishery enforcement.
Yes.
As numerous fishery seminars, fishery symposiums, etc., were conducted at the Royal Bahamas Defense Force base in Colorado.
Yes.
I was part of some of those.
Yes, I was myself too.
Is such a shared relationship still being enjoyed between those entities? I don't know if you would know.
Yeah,
You've been on a
honestly,
new program.
yes.
Was
yes,
that a
yes.
program that
Yeah,
shared?
yeah, 'cause I remember back, I read Captain Sweeney, and you must remember, he was there at the time.
Well, Mr. Swinley, Commodore William
yeah.
Swinley was there when I joined the defense.
Right.
Before I came back from Dartmouth,
Uh-huh.
it was Commodore Belton.
Right,
And then after Commodore Belton would have been
Yeah.
Commodore Leon Smith.
right,
And this happened under Commodore Leon Smith,
yes.
where we started to integrate.
Yes, but when I
And
went
as
there,
an officer in charge of a vessel,
uh-huh.
I didn't learn so much about fisheries until these symposiums and seminars began.
Right,
But
right,
while I was in the defense force, it just dropped off. It stopped.
right.
I don't know if
right.
it continued after I left, which was a long time ago, but I'm hoping that it did.
So I went up there many times to lecture to the officers on the fisheries regulations and what to look for when they're out there.
Right.
But if you know, in a lot of countries, they have their own fisheries enforcement unit, their own patrol boats, their own officers and stuff who patrol the fishing grounds and enforce. Because, you know, back in those days, you remember that we had the flow of drugs to the country, illegal immigrants, so that was a lot on the force plate right there.
Yeah.
And then to ask them to look out for fishing boats at the same time was a lot on their plate there too. But I hope they still do it, because you need to be aware of what to look for.
Yeah.
And I also one time was on a reconnaissance mission with the Defense Force. They had a little small plane there. And I went over to these guys one day, and we covered so much ground, and those pilots, they were so great. I remember coming across some vessels, and I spoke to the pilot and said, could you get any closer so I could see if I can identify the name of the vessel to see if it's a...
You asked for that?
Yeah, I asked him.
I can tell you, Lieutenant Commander Maurice Williams.
Yes.
He used to be police sergeant. He was our guy. And I
Yeah.
can tell you, I've been on that plane with him. And
Yes.
don't ask him to go low, because he go low even when you don't ask him.
My friend, he dropped
And
that...
that plane makes rooster tails.
He
So you
dropped
gotta
that.
tell me how low
He dropped that plane so low. I think he was possibly about a couple of feet off the surface of the water.
Wow.
And not only did he maneuver in a position where I could read the name of the vessel and the registration number, I can actually make out the faces of the people on the vessel.
Wait,
And we covered so much ground. You know, I only went one day.
one day.
And we covered so much ground in that one day. And I thought that was very effective. And I think right now the Defense Force should have 10 airplanes like that. And that would make it, because a plane can cover more ground than a vessel.
Yeah, but it is.
Yes,
It is.
yes, yes.
But we got a larger network
Uh-huh.
out there than one plane can be.
Right.
That's the commercial fishing vessels out there. I'm sure from time to time they would see legal fishermen, illegal, because they know each other. And they see something illegal, they should be able to communicate that
Exactly.
while they are on the spot with the coordinates.
Yes.
And I remember when I was in the Defense Force, we had some radio channel that the fishermen use among each other.
Right.
And somehow we stopped installing that on our vessels. I don't know what's going on now, but we need to look at if it's not back in place, getting back in place
Right.
a network for communication, even if it's by cell phone.
Let me draw
Where
another-
fishermen could
let me
actually
draw
call in
another little
with
analogy for
track
you. You remember
information.
back in the old Western movies, you had one sheriff in the town, but the minute outlaw come around the bank, he would deputize other people
Right.
to form a posse to go look at him. So I was always trying to encourage, I think, that every fishing boat that goes out to sea should be like a deputy fishing boat for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. And like you say, have a special channel, so if they see something that's amiss, they can call in and say, we see something that doesn't seem to be right, and then the Defense Force can dispatch a vessel to that area. And so because we all have to work in harmony to protect our resources.
Definitely.
And the Defense Force can't be everywhere at the same time.
But they can be spread much wider if they have a direct relationship.
Right.
And everybody, I guess, have cell. Well, I don't know how well cell phone works out there, because they're cell towers.
Right, exactly.
But I know some of the fishing boats would have had satellite phones, but not many of them, because that's a very expensive commodity to operate.
Yes.
So it has to be some, I think it was a high-frequency radio station, because high-frequency radios most of those fishing boats have.
Right.
And they can reach long distances, unlike the VHF radios.
Right.
And I think they need to always be in some kind of contact with it. But it's something that I'm sure Commodore King would be more than happy to look back into, provided it's not in place, because it might be in place as we speak.
Yes.
So another thing I go back to the late 80s, because that's when I wasn't a fishery officer, but I was a patrol. We did fisheries, we did drug enforcement, we did customs for weapons and that type of thing, and for drugs. So we did everything. But fishery was one of the things that we did. Okay, we got another call on the line. I think we got to go to this caller, because I got a question coming up about the 80s, Brother Wendell.
Okay.
Let's see what the caller has to say to us. Good evening, caller. You're on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Yes, I'm here to clear up some of the things that you two guys have said, as though you have been under the game for a very long time.
Well, 25 years for me, and more than that for Mr. Wendell. So I know you haven't been on that long. So please enlighten us, Captain Brain, on exactly what's going on with that communication issue.
Yeah, well, we have had, when I was in the Defense Force, I spent almost 30 years there. We've had numerous reports from the local fishermen of sightings of illegal vessels in the Bahamian territory, and they would report those. But they would report those, they would report those by cell phone. Cell phone works just about anywhere in the Bahamas. So the local fishermen, wherever they are, they can communicate back at home utilizing their cell phones or whatever network. I must say it's very, very good. You may have a few spots way out where you may have some drop calls or whatever the case may be, but the coverage itself over the Bahamas is excellent.
Okay, so those cell phones, would they have a specific number that they can call at the Defense Force for some assistance? Because sometimes you call the Defense Force and you don't get through.
Well, that kind of coordination will have to be, and I think, and I fully support the fact that we need to have re-implement some of the communications networks between the local fishermen and BDF, but I don't recall there being no real major problems in the past with sightings, because we also have good relations with the United States and our team. We have good relations with the local pilots who fly throughout the Bahamas, and they too give information from time to time on not only fishing vessels, but a myriad of other things that may be injurious to the country. So yeah, there's good communication, there's good network, but I would agree that all those things need to be embellished, need to be honed, need to be practiced, and I think that'll make for a better enforcement effort.
Thank you so much for keeping us on even keel, Brother Brain.
Yes.
And,
thank you.
I got to keep going on script.
Yes, sir. You know, we little old now. We're in the game like we used to be, and you little young, you've been in the system a little longer than us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
In the late 80s, as I was saying, Brother Wendell, Mr. Wendell, let me get it right.
Yes, you heard the song.
I heard the song. That's your song. There were numerous fishery programs engaged for longline fishing, for stone crab fishing in the Bahamas. I mean, I remember being a captain of the Defense Force, and I went up on the Magnolia Shore, and I came across this fishing boat, and I was like, oh man, they catch them. I saw these foreigners, and I said, yeah, they poaching. And when I got on board, I realized there was a Bahamian on board. And the Bahamian fellow was my friend, Mr. Kirvin Brown.
Yes.
Now, Kirvin and I went to England together to train for the France Force. He was 3 months ahead of me.
Yes, yes.
But Kirvin was on one of those, it was 2 vessels.
Yes.
And I was like, Kirvin, what you doing over there? And he told me, well, you know, Glenn, we doing a fishery program.
Yeah, pilot fishing study.
A pilot fishing study on stone crabs.
Yes.
And this vessel was loaded.
I
I mean, as they pulled the stone crab out of the water, they was putting in this big barrel, they were boiling it.
Yes.
And
yes.
I mean, I was so fortunate because Kevin gave me a long, you know, big long stock in a big bag and fish was full of stone crab biters.
Yes.
I didn't even know how expensive that was, but I was eating stone crab. Like, I was living like a king for a while.
Yes, yes. I was a part of that program. It was a tremendous program. I was on a vessel called the Laurie Renee. This vessel was a vessel that was confiscated by the U.S. When it was used as a drug trafficking boat and then resold.
So was that the U.S. fishing agency or was that private?
No, private.
It was a private company doing that.
So
they took you all out for pilot. It was a pilot
to see
project.
the potential of establishing a stone crab industry in the Bahamas. So the Laurie Renee was the mothership, and then you got 2 other vessels. Now, all 3 vessels were working together. Their catch was independent.
Right.
Okay, so the other boats would go in their directions, pull their ports, and at the end of the day, they would bring their claws to us. And one of the beauty about the stone crabs is that you don't kill the animal. Now, in Florida, they are allowed the fishermen to harvest 1 claw. We allowed them to harvest both claws.
Why?
Well, to help subsidize the cost of their fuel. Remember, I flew from Nassau to Marathon, Florida, and then we crossed the Gulf of Mexico and came into the
but why would they only allow them to do 1 claw in Florida?
That's up to the U.S. But because their fishery is very strict, a lot of overfishing in Florida for a long period of time.
So we could have afforded to do 2
We could
claws
afford it.
without stressing our fishery.
Right.
Okay.
And there's a technique to getting claws, right? So you have to hold the crab and very down to the base and just apply a little pressure, and the crab will just look with the claws.
Okay.
And then you throw the crab back in the water. 6 months later, it grows 2 new claws.
Oh, 6 months?
Yes. And then sometimes the stone crab claws will get so big that the stone crab can't move, so it just discards that claw to the bottom of the ocean and moves on.
Oh, so they normally would show those claws.
They would normally get rid of because as the claws grow. So you know with land crabs how you would just pull the biter and pull the legs and the meat will come and there's something you couldn't do that because when you do that the crab would die.
You plug it,
Right.
We call it plugging in crab.
Right,
And
exactly.
land crab.
Right.
I was an Andresman, so I know
Right.
plugging it when you can't bring it out.
Right. So on our boat we fished with less traps than the other 2 boats. So they would come and bring all their claws to us. At the end of the day, they had this big aluminum container that we would half fill with seawater. We had these kerosene burners in there that they would light.
That was seawater was boiling it up?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you had another container with the cold seawater to cool the crabs in. You ignite the burners. Because stone crabs have to be cooked at sea.
Oh,
So you can't freeze them like that.
That would be cooked before you put them in
And
the
of course,
storage.
that's a I think back then, stone crabs in Florida was going like $29 a pound.
Still very expensive.
Very expensive. That is a delicacy.
So why don't we have Bahamians engaging stone crab fishing today? Or are they? I don't know.
Well, there again, as with most fisheries operations, costs. You see?
Cost to conduct.
To set up the whole operation.
So once you get that in place, I mean, wouldn't you make your money back?
Oh, most definitely, and that would be a good export too.
Yeah, because it's costing all the fishing ventures. Eh?
Right, yes.
So is that something that our fishermen need to engage, or are we just going to leave it alone forever?
Well, I think one of the things that maybe why that industry hasn't been touched is because we're doing so well with fishing and counts. I mean, one time when I went on the dock to collect the statistics, I stopped. They had boats that just specialized in conch. I remember there was a boat from Andres, and I went up to the captain and said, "Cap, how much conch you get in a day?" 40,000.
Wow.
Okay, back in them days, you could buy 100 company shares for $80. Remember back when you could buy a dollar comp? When you could go on
Comps used to be less than some 50 cents.
Right, you could
go on about 50 cents.
You go on Protestant for $2 and get yourself a nice scotch
Well, I
comp.
mean, you could go to the food store and buy 3 candy for 5 cents too.
Thank you very much.
So inflation
Exactly.
inflation going up all around, not only with seafood,
Exactly, you see.
but with everything.
Right, you see. So they would. So the other 2 vessels would bring their claws to us, and we identified them with ribbons. One boat, the ribbon was pink, the other one was yellow, the other one was green. So when they bring all their claws to us, we would cook the claws, set them inside boiling water. 20 minutes later, pull them out, set them in cold water, let them cool down, dump them on the deck, shove them into bags, tie it, wrap the color ribbon, put that inside there. And when I was out there, I spent about 2.5 months out to sea. Never saw any dry land, and then once we had sufficient, we headed back to Marathon, Florida, for the market out there. And I did a study on it, and hopefully you can go to the Department of Fisheries and ask for a copy of my report. And I had latitudes, longitudes, on the locations where we fish. I had pictures of the entire. It was a fantastic operation. One of the things that blew my mind when I was there as you have one guy operating the winch, because mind you now, here's another thing, they didn't put an individual buoy on each trap. They had a cable, and the traps were attached to the cable. So you put in the one cable, right. So then when the guy gets the trap on the corner, he passes to another guy who would strip the claws, put them in a container, throw that crab overboard. But then you have a lot of bycatch, grouper, snappers, and other things like that. And they would just grab them out of the trap and throw them back in the water. I was like, hey,
So stone crab traps will have fish in it.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Stop, and when they first saw the guy pick up a group and throw it, I said, no, what are you doing that could eat? He said, man, we're not here for that. We were here for stone crab claws. So I said, I can take those.
Yeah.
And in one trip, just with the bycatch, I was able to fill 33 bags.
You have 32 bags of fish.
33 bags of fish.
So your family's doing good.
Yes. Yes. Of course, that's what I did. Whenever I went out to sea, I did my little hand, and I always made sure that my family was taken care of first. Then I would take fish out to the community. The vendors on Protestant would get mad at me.
So this was a pilot project.
Yeah, pilot.
Getting a lot of stone crabs.
Right.
And also getting, as a byproduct,
right.
quite a good supply of fish.
A great supply of fish.
And we don't have any Bahamians doing that today.
I don't think so. I've never heard about anybody.
So what was the conclusion of this pilot? Was it said that
it is a viable industry. It is a viable.
It's a commercially viable industry for Bahamian
and
fishermen.
the best part about it, in the industry, Florida right there waiting on them.
So, Mr. Wendell, here's the big question. We got a hot, great question for you, because I know you're a man who knows these things.
Okay.
We have our port development back, what it was, about 10, 15 years ago, when they went to the public on an IPO, International Public Offering, and most of the people, like myself, who tried to buy shares were given a lot of the money back, saying, look, you can only buy so much shares, we oversubscribed.
Right.
And then years later comes the Nassau Cruise Port. And the very same thing happened.
Yes.
A lot of people could not buy more shares than so much, and they got their money back to them saying, we are oversubscribed.
Yeah.
So we know, based on these two situations, that Bahamians are prepared to heavily invest their finances. So how about somebody starting a company outside of government now to say that we are going to have this IPO for Bahamians to invest in our fishing industry. We want to buy 20 fishing vessels. We want a fleet of 20. And they're going to be state-of-the-art. Some are going to be for stone crab fishing, some for crawfishing, some for divers. And we're going to hire Bahamians on these vessels, and we're going to manage them. And the catch, the profits, will be shared among the Bahamian owners, which will be 100% owned by Bahamians based on an IPO.
Right.
Could you see something like that happening in our country?
That is the ideal situation. Now, remember, all right, let me just say this too. Remember now, any company, whatever they're doing, there's always a limited amount of shares available. Okay? Yeah. And what they would do is, you don't want one person to grab so many shares. You want everybody to get a piece of the pie. But there's always a limited amount. Of course, the owners will try and hold a majority of the shares so they can be the owners, and you can get, and like when I was a young man, And my sister used to work at World Bank. And I remember Roy West Corporation, they were offering shares, and my sister encouraged me. And I spent about $300 investment that I was able to cash in later on, and I got about $2,400 when I sold my shares. So it's been, that would be the ideal situation. What I like about that is when you have this corporation with the boats and everybody's working for the, it takes a lot of stress of individual, but you know, a lot of guys fear because they have an individual boat they're trying to run, they got to buy fuel, food, and everything, and then it goes out to sea and they don't catch enough product to cover their costs. Then eventually they end up going out of business.
The people just need the confidence. They need to know that people like Wendell Clarke and my good friend Herbert Brain are spearheading this, and they're doing it in a strategic way, in a proper way. They can maintain the vessels, they can hire a properly qualified crew, they can manage, they got accountants, they got people who can manage this, and it's just basically a company that is owned by the people.
Of course, but of course.
So we need to move forward with that at some point, and we'll be good to go.
And then let me draw another analogy for you. Remember the Cable Beach Strip, where you had the Nassau Beach Hotel, Amber Basin, Nesta Beach.
Yes.
And now we have Bahamas taking over that whole area.
Yes.
You see, so it can be done.
But we still have sandals and
but that was strip it is. It can be done. It can be done. It can be done.
Well, we moved to our second break for the night. So, my special guest tonight, Mr. Wendell Clarke, and we're talking fishing in the Bahamas. Thank you very much.
At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Watching the ships roll in, and I want to roll away again. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll in. Sitting on the dock of the bay,
And welcome back to Maritime Matters. My very special guest for tonight, Mr. Wendell Clarke, my good buddy, my good friend. Boy, Mr. Wendell, we lighting it up tonight.
Yes.
Man, look here. You just keep it going because it is what it is.
I'm enjoying myself.
Very good. Now, you know, we're talking fishing, we're talking fishery, and all the rest of that good stuff. How about the youth, Mr. Wendell? Do they have any classes and schools to teach Bahamian students on how to fish and business and commercial fishing? I mean, from primary school level, I mean...
Unfortunately, I don't think so, but...
in your days, did they have any? Did they introduce anything to the schools?
Let me put it this way. When I graduated from college with my degree in marine biology, I entered the Department of Fisheries and on the guana honey.
Right.
I got a whole new education from the gentleman on the vessel. The fisherman on the vessel. There's a gentleman on the vessel, his name was Christopher Waller. He was on Ragged Island.
Right.
And these guys know everything about fishing. So one of the best ways, if you want to engage in fishing, is to learn from the people who are already engaged in fishing. I would say, be friendly with some of them guys from Spanish Wells. These guys are the masters of the industry. You know what I mean? They are the Michael Jordans, the LeBron James of the fishing industry.
They do say that the young men in Spanish Wells are usually millionaires by the time they reach age 21. Due to gains in commercial fishing. Can this practice be made, Bahama-wide, particularly in the Family Islands? If they were to start it in school and let the students know that, look, you could be a millionaire before you're 21 if you do this right, and you start teaching them about fishing, the
Yes.
fishing grounds, the
Yes.
closing seasons,
Yes.
the habit, because, I mean, children already like animals.
Right.
They don't know, the children in Nassau don't have a clue about what's going on in the sea.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
So
right.
why not introduce this from the primary school level,
I
so that
agree-
by the
I
time
agree.
these students are ready to graduate, they already know what they need to do.
Exactly, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. The best part of it, you're your own boss. You know, you can work when you feel like it, and even in some cases, like say for example, you go there in the crawfish season and you have a very productive crawfish season.
Right.
You could take yourself a couple months off and relax. You know, it's not that 9 to 5 thing. And one thing I would advise any young person going into the fishing industry is you have to have a love of the water.
Yeah.
You know, so you're better off going. I always say to myself, if I had to live my life again, I would love to be born on a family island to a fisherman.
Yeah.
You see?
So you could come up. I mean, people doing that every day, but are they getting enough from the commercial side to understand? I don't just want to be a fisherman going out there in my little skiff.
Uh-huh.
I want to own a fishing complex. I want
Right.
to own a large fishing vessel or a fleet of fishing vessels.
Right.
See, that's where we need to go with this.
Right. But here's a very interesting observation I made. With the Spanish fishermen and their vessels, right? You have the major vessel.
Right.
But the guys on the boat, the dinghies, are owned by them.
Yeah, I
Right, so
remember
they,
that,
so,
that
right,
scenario.
so they are basically offering a small business within a business.
Right.
You see? So by them having their own boat, they're entitled to a little bit more of the profit from the catch once the profit is sold.
Yeah, but you have that in Sandy Point, right?
Sandy Point,
You have that
yes.
in maybe, I'm not sure of the Cherokee Sound, I'm
Yes.
sure you might have that in the Spanish Wells,
Yes.
but you don't have that in Nassau.
Right.
Why don't we, you don't have that in Nassau because the students in Nassau, I was never exposed to anything about fishing when I was in school.
Right.
If I was in the family, I don't know what it would.
You have no other choice.
But the reality is we need Nassauians because
Uh-huh.
the bulk of the people in this country are in Nassau and Freeport.
Right.
We need Nassauians and people in Freeport to be introduced to this stuff from primary school level.
But let's look at Nassau now. You have Crystal Palace Hotel.
But we have the whole world that we could...
banks. You have all the banks, all these different jobs that are available to them. And maybe some people say, I'd rather just sit in a nice air-conditioned office than go out to sea, you know.
But you got some people who leave school and don't know what they want to do.
Right, they don't look at it as
Because they were
as
not
as glamorous
introduced to
job.
things like
Yes.
where can you go and fish. You see, some people see fishing as just getting a line and throwing it overboard.
Yeah, no.
You know, they wouldn't know about these things, Mr. Wendell, unless some system teaches them about it.
Yes, we
We
should.
have a maritime cadet corps for people from grade 10 through 12, just to introduce them into what jobs are available out in the maritime, what it's like to go on a commercial ship, what it's like to be on a cruise ship. And unless you put some program in place, they would not know.
Captain, maybe we should have a fisheries college.
We should have a fisheries
A
college.
fisheries college where all we teaching you in this school is fisheries.
So while you was at fisheries as a fishery officer, were there any plans being made for a fishery college?
Oh yes, we
But a fishery college is not going to help them at the primary school level.
we took many kids out on the Guanahani and teach them that we had the Guanahani and we had two smaller vessels, the Arietta and Samana.
What are the follow-ups on that though? You take a child out today, you give them some exposure, do you follow up on it later to say, okay, now you can take it to another level and have an actual program?
Well, you know, I guess it's really up to the children. They may go out there and do it.
Well, it's not up to the children because they are not responsible.
Right.
It's up to the responsible entities. I don't know what the Fisheries Act say, but I know for sure that under the Bahamas Maritime
Right.
Authority, it says this authority is required to expand and create opportunities for Bahamians in the
Yes,
maritime industry.
yes.
I think we should have something similar in the
We
Fishing
should.
Act. I don't know if it's there. I would assume it's there.
Yes.
But even if it isn't there, we
Right.
need to put it there. We need to make this thing happen because kids say you can do it on their own.
That's like when I was in high school, which is now called D.W. Davis. We had our workshop there where you could learn carpentry, auto mechanics, all these different things, and that's one of the things we really need to. The BTVI, for example, where you can go there and learn a trade, but it seems like fishing just doesn't seem to be in the picture.
So Who has to make that happen? Was it the Department of Fisheries that got to make that happen? Or Ministry of Education? Somebody got to make that happen. Or a combination of both.
A combination of all of them. The Ministry of Youth, along with the Department of
So what could
Education.
you and I at our level do to cause this to happen or to cause them to even consider it?
Well,
Somebody got to light some fire somewhere.
we have already started.
Okay, so we lighting the fire.
Right.
Okay, well, then
Right.
keep this fire burning, my friend.
Maritime Matters.
Maritime
yes,
Matters will keep the fire
pioneered-
burning.
Pioneered the concept. So
There you
those
go.
of you who are out there listening, let's get together, let's grab the ball, and let's run with it.
Okay, so we got a caller on the line, Mr. Wendell. Let's see
Okay.
what our caller wants to tell us to get these students all sorted out and good to go with this fishing industry.
I got you.
Good evening, you on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Good evening, Captain Brain.
Good evening, Miss Misty Brain.
And good evening, Mr. Wendell.
Good evening, darling. How are you?
I'm well.
Excellent.
A lot of people may not realize that you're also a real estate agent extraordinaire. you help me out quite a bit in that area, but I'm very happy to have the conversation tonight. I just want to say about, the phrase is, you teach a man how to fish, you don't have to worry about him going hungry for the rest of his life. But
Yes.
I wanted to find out whether or not the season, the grouper season, the crawfish season, is that still sufficient, or should the parents be adjusted because now we have a whole lot more people to consider, and is it really being effective in terms of are they being able to be replenished during the off season? Like what's really going on about? And then another question I have is with marine biology, because I do know quite a few people that are studying that. What else can be done in terms of protecting endangered species in that way?
Okay, to answer your first question, that ties in with, when I first joined the Department of Fisheries too, I was a part of what we did a resource assessment project. And that project was to determine the amount of fishery stocks on the Little Bahama and Great Bahama banks. It took us about a year and a half to complete that project, and we surveyed the entire Little Bahama bank and 2/3 of the Great Bahama bank. Never got down to the Keyside bank. But the results of our survey showed that we could increase our fishing effort 1,000-fold, and we wouldn't even touch the resource, we wouldn't even harm them.
It's still be done.
Right, but the problem is now that was done by 83, 84, I think it was, and there was no follow-up to that. So it was recommended by Dr. Gregory Smith, who was the UN representative for the project. I was the counterpart biologist. So it was recommended, like any experiment, every 5 years, this needs to be done. So that's how you keep an idea of how your fishery stock is going.
So we could really turn the heat up on fishing, especially if we can get into these primary schools and get more
Yes.
people educated in
Yes,
fishing.
yes, and going back to your suggestion about the conglomerate, the corporation, that would bring people in at that young level
Beautiful.
into it, you
That's
see?
right, that's right.
You see?
So I thank Misty for that question.
Yes, yes.
What are the steps necessary for young enthusiasts to obtain a commercial fishing license in the Bahamas?
There's nothing really difficult about that. You know, you just go into the Department of Fisheries. They have the application forms right there.
What are the criteria? Like, you could be anybody. If you have a criminal record, does it matter?
No,
It doesn't matter.
I wouldn't think. I don't see why that should matter.
But you have to be a Bahamian, or if you don't have a Bahamian status,
Well,
does it matter?
the fishing license is not for the individual. It's for the vessel.
Well,
You see?
so you have to have a vessel in order to get a
Yeah,
commercial fishing
the
license.
vessel gets licensed,
Right.
not the individual.
Okay,
You see?
so the license is to the individual who owns the vessel.
Right.
So once you have a vessel
Yeah.
and you don't have a Bahamian status and you apply, you can get
Right.
it.
And
Could you get it without a Bahamian status though?
No, but now, and also you remember you're also allowed to bring in a commercial fishing vessel duty free. When I was at the Department of Fisheries, the criteria was it has to be 100% Bahamian owned and at least 60% Bahamian operated.
Oh, what you mean 60% Bahamian operating? So could you have 40% non-Bahamians working on fishing vessels?
Yeah, you can.
Is that the law? So you don't have to be a Bahamian
That was
working
the
on
law.
fishing
That
vessel?
was the law back then. That
Oh,
was
you
the
got to
law.
do something about it, Mr. Wendell. But they don't know what it is now, so
Yeah.
let's not make any
Remember
assumptions.
now, our country now is living more diversified than what it was back in the day, and you have to get your help and your workers where you can find them.
I don't know nothing but that. But let's go into long line fishing.
Okay.
What is the situation with long line fishing in the Bahamas? Is there enough fish here for long line fishing to happen?
That's another project I was involved in.
You had a pilot project on that one?
No, we had a major project on that.
Oh, what was that like?
As a matter of fact, when I came into the Department of Fisheries, I came across reports that were done back in 1977 when I was still in high school. And I read out on the Guanahani, there was a gentleman by the name of John Wedderburn. He was from Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
He was a master fisherman. So we had a project where we would go into deep water in like 120, 150 fathoms of water fishing for red snapper. You had the queen silk, the other one called the yellow eye, and the black wing. And there also was a species of fish known as the misty grouper. Now,
Misty grouper?
the misty grouper.
You mean like
These
water misty? She have a grouper?
right, these are deep water resources that haven't even been touched.
So what depth do they do this long line fishing in?
120 fathoms to 150 fathoms. So what we did when we go there, we set up a rig,
Yeah.
and we would put anywhere from 150 to 200 hooks on this rig. It's weighted at one end with about 30 pounds of lead weight, and we drop that into the water. You have a rope attached to it. You let it go down several distance, and you attach a pressure buoy onto it. That pressure buoy is made of metal, and it's designed to keep the line vertical into the water. And I tell you, that was one of the greatest experiences I ever had when I was out to sea.
So how do they go about rigging these lines for long line fishing?
You have eagle claw hooks with you, and you have swivels. So you have these swivels, and you get a piece of nylon. You tie one nylon onto one swivel, and you just keep linking them up like that. Right? Tie them.
So how many hooks is basically?
It's a triangular swivel. So you have two, one on the left, one on the right, to join them up, and then you have another one that you would hook the bait on. Because you would have another, the eagle claw hook with maybe with 8 inches of nylon fishing line, and then a clip.
But they call them long line. How long? So these lines are like 120 meters.
Right, they don't even go to the bottom of the water.
And on that line you have hooks going all the way down from the top all the way to the bottom.
Right.
So how many hooks in total, like, is on average?
We did an average of 150.
150 hooks?
Right, I mean, we set 7 rigs.
150 hooks on one piece or the
line.
whole hook?
No, 150 hooks on one
And
line.
about how much lines do they have?
We do 7 rigs.
7 lines?
Yeah, 7
150
rigs.
each?
Yeah, 150 hooks each.
And how long would they drag that along the bottom?
No. These never touch the bottom.
Okay, so they're
Remember
suspended.
now, these
They're
fish,
just suspended.
these fish are not bottom dwellers. They're in the water column.
So you lay them down and then you come back and start pulling them.
So you set one rig,
Right.
and you let it down. You have a rope attached to it, then you attach the buoy to it,
Right.
throw it out in the water, set up the next line, set that there. As soon as you set number 7,
Yeah.
turn the boat around, and you go right back and start pulling number 1.
And they have a lot of fish normally?
The first time I was there, of course the water is very, very dark, so you can't even see.
Right.
And I'm there, and we're pulling the line, and we're pulling, and all of a sudden the water starts to bubble, turn to like a dark green, and then a lighter green, and then white. And it just started bubbling. That was the fish extending the air.
Oh.
See, when these fish swallow the bait, we use mackerel,
Right.
which is very shiny.
Mackerel is the bait.
It's very shiny, so they can see it in the dark, because it's very dark.
Oh, sure.
And the misty group, unlike the Nassau group, that has a very streamlined profile, their eyes are bulging, but bulging up, okay? And our quota was 1,000 pounds of red snapper.
But they?
No, once we catch that, however long it takes us to catch that, we would bring
It's
that in,
1,000 pounds.
and then we would return back to port.
Wow.
But we wasn't really fishing.
So is that something that Bahamian fishermen engage?
Most definitely.
The Bahamian fishermen engage it now?
No. As a matter of fact, there again is another fisheries that I think people just didn't venture in because they were comfortable doing what they're doing right now.
But Mr. Wendell, we got 3 more minutes left in the show, and I got about 10 more questions, but obviously we're not going to get to them.
Okay.
So I don't know. Probably we got to bring you back sometime soon, so that we can really dig a little deeper into this fishing operation. We can get some of these other questions out. But I got to mention my sponsor tonight, One-on-One Pharmacy. That's my little cousin, Shantia Hill McBride, and her lovely crew, including my big cousin, Stephanie Cooper. and they're located on East Street South, and the other one is located on, what's the highway again? I forget. Well, anyway, Johnny, that's Charles Sanders Highway.
Okay.
You know, when you're working, they treat you royalty, man. You ain't got nothing to worry about. They take care of you. They give you stuff. You can get them online, oneononepharmacy.com, or you can go in and put in your subscription. Any subscription to Dr. Weather you can get. So, Mr. Wendell, we get 1 minute. Do you want to shout out to anybody?
Yes, I would. For all the folks who I sent out the notice of the show tonight who promised that they were going to tune in, thank you very much for tuning in and for listening. And Mr. Bain, if you need me to come back here to impart more knowledge on our people, I would be more than happy to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Wendell. Let's see who's on line one before we go. Maritime Matters, hello. You got less than a minute to go.
Yeah, so I was the first, now I'm going to be the last. Just to quickly, Mr. Wendell, long line fishing, I would have witnessed that in the past, and that seems to, there's a lot of byproduct fish that get caught on that long line.
Yes.
But there's no real market for all the peppers and the sharks, and would you address that? Because that you lose. When I was exposed to it, a lot of those bycatch, they just throw them back overboard. But of course, the Dominicans who do it, they sell everything. So how do you address that?
Well, you used to get like black snapper. Those are bycatches, but they're still edible. Mind you, they're still edible. And the funny thing I found at one time, the red snapper that we catch over here in the Bahamas is preferred better in Florida as opposed to our Nassau grouper. And so there's a great export market for those fish. But any bycatch you catch is your call. If you want to throw it back in the water, you can. If you want to eat it, you can.
Very good, Mr. Wendell. Thank you very much. And to my compatriot, General Herbert Brain, thank you for calling and keeping us on even keel, my friend.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Misty, for calling in. And that's it for tonight. Maritime Matters will resume again next Tuesday. We'll have another special guest for you. But guess what? We're going to be bringing Mr. Wendell back to finish up his questions.
More than happy to be here.
Thank you, my
More than
friend.
happy to come back. Okay.
I'll be slipping watching the ships roll in, and I watch them roll away again. I'm sitting on the dock, watching the tide